revealed that Dana White is not the real boss of the UFC. Now, why is that? Well, there's a multitudes of reasons. Obviously, he is not involved in the day-to-day, daily operations, and that's just the fact. He's not. Uh, who is? We're going to reveal right now it is Hunter Campbell. It's Hunter Campbell. Hunter Campbell is the quintessential day-to-day operational chief of the UFC. For example, he does the contracts. When there's a fight going on, what does he do? He goes and calls the fighters directly. You've even heard Dana White say, well, I never dealt with Francis Ngannou. That is the job of Hunter Campbell. And by the way, even though Hunter Campbell is not mentioned in the title, even though he is not in the thumbnails, because why would you put him in the thumbnails when, once again, Deontay Wilder is making news based on racism accusations, which, by the way, is really fun to delve into. Let's be honest about that, right? It's a very fun subject to delve into because there are people that believe him, and then there are people that don't believe Deontay Wilder, and then there are people that are fed up with what he says, and then there are people that say he's just a sore loser looking to justify his egotistical, narcissistic, nature about him, to justify why is it that he lost, when a healthy person with a healthy ego can look at that objectively and say, you know what, the man beat me fair and square. Or the other side of that, maybe he's telling the truth. You got to understand, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. But we live in the United States where we are governed by laws, and as such that we are governed by laws, we are governed by what it is that you can prove, not exactly what you know. And you've heard Denzel Washington say this in Training Day. It's not what you know, Jake. It's what you can prove. Okay? That's the whole entire narrative about it. What can you prove? Because the reality of it is that Deontay Wilder has accusations, but he has no proof. We have our own speculations. For example, is it really that far-fetched to say that Deontay Wilder is telling the truth about Tyson Fury cheating? After all, when I said that there's smoke, there's fire, it doesn't mean that you have to disregard legitimate, tangible proof, which till this day, I don't know if Deontay Wilder has objectively presented that to the world. But what we do know about Tyson Fury is that he's a gypsy, and that alone tells you that they have a propensity to cheat. They have a propensity to go outside the lines in order to achieve whatever goal and mission they have in front of them. In this case, a boxing match against one of the most fiercest knockout artists of all time in Deontay Wilder. Double says hi. Hello, Double. Let me know what part of the world you are from, and if you could double the like and the subscription on this page, it would really help. Thank you for your support, and everyone around here that is coming to contribute in the chat. So that is the piece of news that we have going on. Obviously, Deontay Wilder got into it with Simon Jordan. Okay, let's take a look at what Simon Jordan and Deontay Wilder got into about. Okay, let's check this out. Let's check this out right here. I was embarrassed. Simon Jordan reflects on his explosive confrontation with Deontay Wilder. Let's hear what he has to say about this.
With producer Luke and assistant producer Joe, and we leave you for 5 minutes, and the next thing we hear is that in this very building, you're rolling around the floor I don't think so. With Deontay Wilder, who's trying to get a...
And you got to understand something about Simon Jordan, right? He is a master troll. The reason why he has a job with Talk Sports is because a lot of these sports guys, especially the ones that cover fighting sports, they really don't know or understand fighting. They really don't understand fighting. They don't understand the hard work, the dedication, and also the thrill and the agony that comes with being a combat sports athlete. They can only armchair quarterback and give some of the most horrendous takes. On top of these horrendous takes, some of the most harshest criticism that is uncalled for in the world of combat sports, right? That is Simon Jordan in a nutshell. A comparison to Simon Jordan in the American side of sports media is Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith has known to be a troll, known to be a button pusher, and Simon Jordan is that on steroids. Plus, he's English. And why does it matter that he's English, that he is such a troll in this particular matter? Man, let me tell you, man, it's great having Deontay Wilder as the protagonist-antagonist dynamic between this story, right? Because what you got to understand about white British culture is that they are very sensitive to being called racist. Neva says, hello, let me know what part of the world you are from. You are very welcome to this page. This is the first time I think that I've seen you in here, but on any regard, yeah, let me know what part of the world you are from. So, white British men, in particular, are very sensitive to the idea of being called racist. I think most white men in the West are, particularly embarrassed by these types of talks, right? That's why when you look at the title, what does Simon Jordan say about this? He says, I was embarrassed. Well, why is it that he was embarrassed? Because he felt like he got dragged into a conversation about race that, quite frankly, he was going to feel uncomfortable about. And I think there's historical reasons for that. You see, during the days of slavery, it was actually the British that freed the slaves, or was more advanced from the United States in terms of not practicing slavery, right? In terms of human trafficking people from Africa and then coming into the West. So obviously, there's an embedded culture, at least in white British culture, that sort of speaks as, you know what, we are tolerant people. You look at Prince Charles, right? He tries to embody this in the 1970s and 80s, at least when he was Prince Charles, and now he is obviously the King of England. But during the time that he was a prince, he went to the hoods of England, right? Different sections, different ends, bruv. You know what I mean? That's what they call it, yeah? You know, they call it them ends, yeah? You know what I mean? You know, with them youth and them bruv, yeah? You know, we get them things now when it ain't no small man thing up in this, right? It's big man ting, bruv. Big man ting. You know how they talk in the hoods of the UK. So he went there. 1970s or 80s or so, breakdancing, doing the little pop lock, right? Trying to get himself good with the black community. And I'm not saying that he wasn't being genuine about that. I'm sure that he actually means that. I think that that particular notion is just embedded in the British culture. So when you accuse a British man of racism, they can be very apprehensive about it. I'll give you an example, right? Remember when Jarrell Miller, by the way, funny enough, recent story of Jarrell Miller getting his wig blown off in a recent heavyweight bout that he was in, right? When he was set to fight Anthony Joshua, which later became Andy Ruiz, because Andy Ruiz had to come in as a replacement because Jarrell Miller was taking steroids, and in a very pronounced way that they had to pull the fight. There was an interesting press conference banter before that. What exactly was that? Here it goes, right? He calls Anthony Joshua a sellout, colonizer. Okay, and this is even way before Kendrick Lamar had ever accused, let's say, had ever accused Drake of such thing, right? Because this was like, I think, when was this fight? 2019. And yeah, obviously that was 2024 with the whole Drake and Kendrick Lamar thing. But anyways, yeah, he called him a colonizer, right? And the reason why is because Anthony Joshua met with, at the time, Prince Charles, which is now King Charles. When he met him, Okay, he was knighted. He was appreciated by the British public due to the fact that he was a hero in Britain. He won a gold medal for them. He won a unified world championship for them in the pros. So as such, he needed to be celebrated. And obviously, Jarrell Miller saw something very nefarious about this. And what exactly was that? Well, the race relations that he may have miscalculated about Great Britain. For example, there are a lot of black American boxing channels that sort of look at Eddie Hearn as the quote-unquote slave master, whereas Anthony Joshua is the subservient worker of Eddie Hearn, right? When Eddie Hearn, on the contrary, actually says the complete opposite. And what complete opposite exactly is that? He said, you know what? I am an employee for Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is my boss. You know, he said that in those exact words, right? He said that Anthony Joshua is his boss and not the other way around. Now, you see Barry Hearn, he gets caught years later saying, what did Barry Hearn say? Let me look up this thing. This is very interesting right here, what he said here. Barry Hearn, slim comment. Let's see here. Right here, this one right here.
The next gorilla in the room, if you like, is Dylan White. I'm not sure I liked him so much when he first started. Son of a bitch, he's not tied up like the slave contract of yesteryear. When I was running boxing, it was much easier. We were slave traders. We had these guys and they were working for us and we was the boss. Like he's Dylan White. I'm not sure I liked him so much when he first started. Son of a bitch, he's not tied up like the slave contract of yesteryear. When I was running boxing, it was much easier. We were slave traders. We had these guys and they were working for us and we was the boss. Let's have no bullshit, shall we? We're in the money business. And we're here to make a lot of money for matchroom sport. We're not fighting someone like Deontay Brazil. Tony Bellew.
All right, so you get the whole picture, right? Obviously, that was very bad, right? That was a very bad comment, and it wasn't taken too well. It wasn't taken too well. That was, what, 6 years ago? Wow. 6 years ago, has time flown. Yeah, 6 years ago that had happened. Okay, so let's get back to the Simon Jordan interaction with Deontay Wilder.
Good few digs on you. What on earth was going on?
Well, he's lucky he left when he did, because I was just about to open a can of whoop-ass on him. Yeah, fun and games, fun.
What's going on, Marty? Shout out to you, man. Great stream yesterday, out of town. Obviously it was like, yeah, time keeps going faster. What do you mean by that? Did it seem like it was only, a few hours ago that I was live or something like that? Or what is it? Or, is time, going really quick for you where you're at? Let me know, my man.
Fun and games, not quite sure what it was all about yesterday, but it was an interesting interview up until that point.
Yeah, well, let's put it into perspective. You sat down and you're doing a 1+2, as we would call it. You've got Deontay Wilder and Derek Chisora, both who fight.
He turned up 40 minutes late, by the way.
Chisora?
Yeah, so Deontay Wilder was sitting in the green room for an hour, and Chisora, being Chisora, decides to turn up 40 minutes late.
No, it's fair. Well, that's poor form in my book. And Wilder seemed to be in good form. So what triggered it? We're about to play some of it in the moment. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on your smart TV or whatever this morning, you don't want to miss this. You'll hear it live in TalkSport. What triggered it, do you think?
God knows. I mean, he
must have an idea.
Well, I think perhaps...
He says, I'm saying overall, it feels like time is passing by faster. Stay tuned, all right? This right here is going to get really explosive with Deontay Wilder, and then we're going to get to the Dana White situation. But I did explain overall in the intro, right? Wasn't one of those long drawn intros from the very beginning. If you guys haven't caught it from the beginning, I started from the very beginning just spitting fire into the topics and into what we're getting into with the UFC business, and then with the Deontay Wilder explanation as well, as we are continuing on right now. Yeah, from finish to from start to finish, it is nothing but explosive and hot content from here. So even if you want to rewind all the way back to 15 minutes ago, or you want to continue live from here, it is just constant action every second and every minute. But bear with what Simon Jordan is talking about right now, because we're going to get into the video with Deontay Wilder. What was his motivation behind that? What is the psychological motivation behind that? And also the paranoia, or maybe the legitimacy that Deontay Wilder may be able to offer in terms of what is going on here. Because obviously the way that a lot of the media is going to look at this, especially the MMA media, okay, which, let's be honest, has a strong white right-wing fan base, okay, is going to look at that in a very distasteful and negative way. But once again, I was also explaining earlier that the racial dynamic in England is a lot different than that of the United States. In fact, I'll give you an example, right? There's this show, I forgot which network it was on, but I did catch it on YouTube, right? It was a show where these families were swapping, let's say, lives or together, right? Like the family from Chicago went to go live in the house of the family from Birmingham, England. And then the family from Birmingham, England went to the house of the people for, so they basically switched houses, right? There was this one scene where the black American from Chicago felt like he was treated so well in England. He said, wow, I can't believe that the racial dynamic here in England is so much different, and it actually made him cry, right? It made him cry because he was so profoundly amazed at how different the racial dynamics was in England, in particular, the friendliness and the banter, the brotherhood that they had going on, right, in comparison to Chicago, which I would argue, and I think anybody could subjectively objectively argue that it is a little bit more racially divided than, let's say, some cities in England or Europe, right? But all right, we'll get to it, and let's hear what Simon Jordan has to say about this.
In retrospect, when I talked about Tyson Fury, he's mentioned Tyson Fury. He's called him a cheat, right? So I think it's entirely appropriate to ask him to qualify what he says. He didn't want to talk about it. So I said my initial reaction was, well, you're gonna, which to some extent could be considered a little bit provocative, because if I was in his shoes, I probably would have said, no, I'm not. And that's...
All right, so what he's saying is that he understands that him asking Deontay Wilder this question is going to be highly contentious, yet he does it anyway. So what is the pure definition of that? It is belligerence 101. That is just pure belligerence on the part of Simon Jordan to not consider the fact that he doesn't want to talk about it. And look, at the same time, there is a certain level of journalistic integrity that you have to maintain. Okay, in other words, this is where I admire the MMA media work of the likes of MMA Guru, and even the highly contrasting version of that, Luke Thomas. I'm going to tell you why. These two guys are not concerned with making friends with fighters. Although, let's be honest, right? There have been some certain fighters that Luke Thomas and MMA Guru have been friends with. For example, obviously, there's a friendship between Luke Thomas and Israel Adesanya. I believe they share the same left-wing liberal view of the world, right? So as a result of that, that left-wing worldview, bonds them together, okay? MMA Guru, he recently made a fishing video with Bryce Mitchell. Why is he hanging out with Bryce Mitchell? For the simple fact that they share the same worldview, okay? So those are the type of friends that they have. But other than that, they are not attached to anyone. So in other words, the fact that they are not attached to anyone allows them free range to ask questions, in particular, hard and difficult questions. You will never see MMA Guru in a UFC fight week media scrum. You're never going to see that. You're never going to see Luke Thomas there again, although he was there for the Alexander Gustafsson fight. And how was he met with John Jones? With just vitriol and disdain, right? He said, well, I'm not really going to answer your question because I don't like you. And then Luke Thomas is like, fair enough. You know, he says, I wonder if Luke Thomas paints his nails too. He says, I'm saying overall, it feels like time is passing by faster the older I get. It does tend to feel that way, right? I think that's just a common reflection on the fact that we don't have much long on this earth. And even though sometimes we live long lives as human beings, that's not always guaranteed. And that's always a humbling fact to always know about yourself and other people as well in this journey of life. This is why a lot of the trolls, you know, and I'm going to address the trolls once again, because it's you know, I had to delete a few comments here, and you guys are probably getting a kick out of that. But anyways, he said, yeah, I remember as a kid, a school year felt like it took forever. Yeah, because a school was boring and redundant, and as a result, it felt really slow. Whereas maybe when you're an adult, you have a little bit more of a free range to, sort of pick with what you're going to do with your time. You know, whereas like with a kid, you were designated a recess time, whereas an adult, I could choose to be in the gym for hours and on out, and yeah, so, all right. So anyways, yeah, let's get back to Simon Jordan on this one.
That's what he said, but it escalated from there, and he wanted to make it about something completely different.
Yeah.
He wanted to turn it into a sort of race thing where ultimately he as a black man had been oppressed, and the fact that things were being said about Fury. I wasn't saying anything about Fury. I wasn't believing Fury over him. I was asking him to explain his viewpoint that he'd said to other people about why Fury had cheated.
Well, yeah, for those who haven't seen it, and there must be very few throughout the country because this thing has gone viral. In one corner, Mr. Jordan, who held his nerve, to be fair to him. In the other corner, Deontay Wilder sitting beside Derek Chisora. And it seemed to be going so well.
I wanted to move you on to Tyson Fury.
All right, so here we go. This is where it gets really explosive right here.
I don't want to talk about him.
No, you got to.
We're here about
No, but you're going to.
we're not going to talk about him
But
at
you.
all.
But as part
We're
of
not going to talk about him at all. Understand that. If somebody practicing, taking their stuff out of their guns and training, what you think they're going to do in the fight?
Yeah, but
That's all I got to say about that.
I want to put something to you about you, right? And Fury just happens to be the hook for it.
That's all I got to say about
You
him.
talked about being cheated in that fight. You talked about water being spiked. You talked about
Facts.
your Game of Thrones outfit being too heavy for you.
I
You
didn't
talked
say
to-
that.
You said it was too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, I might be wrong on that one. What I'm asking you in all of this is, it sounds to me, given the character that you are, that's like a little bit flaky. You lost those fights, and those fights were lost. And you saying that someone like Fury cheated you in those fights, I think is kind of disappointing to me
You can say
about
what you
because
want. I know the truth. I have the facts.
okay.
Understand that.
But
I got the facts of it.
No, fair
I
enough.
got the proof. I got the people to tell it.
And we'll look forward to seeing
Understand
that.
that.
We'll look forward to seeing
Understand
that.
that. What I say in boxing, I mean, and it's the truth. I risk my life for you's entertainment to see.
Oh, absolutely.
So why I ain't never lied about nothing in this business. You can believe what? Why is it so hard to believe a black man in a white man? Understand me? Why is it so hard to believe a black man in a white man?
Why you don't believe it?
Why is it?
Let me ask you a question.
That's it.
Yeah, go on.
So we go there.
First and foremost, it's nothing to do with color.
Yes.
See, it does.
This whole country got something wrong. This whole world got something to do with race.
Yeah.
You think you pan out? You think you have you done had a great life? You think your life has been like mine?
How is Derek Chisora then, out of curiosity, given he's a black man, a national treasure in this country then? It's not about color.
He says, the race. Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Look, this is why I need to be here to analyze this, right? This is where I come into the picture, because what is the common response as, you know, a white American hearing this, right? Or as a white British man, or as a white Frenchman, a German. Oh, you know, with the race thing again, which is the race thing again, right? It's just, but here's the thing. Sometimes you're right. And then sometimes you're not. And then sometimes there's blurry lines that are sort of misconstrued, and you have to investigate it further. Well, that's what we're going to do here, right? I've told you from the beginning, right, in the beginning of the live stream, which you weren't here, but you can rewind back and check that out. But I'm going to try to remember what I said, not exactly verbatim, but it goes something like this, right? This is a common response for a lot of white guys to say, well, you know, this doesn't exist. You know, the racism doesn't exist, maybe because you're not feeling that or you're not experiencing that, indicative of what Deontay Wilder is explaining to Simon Jordan here. But then the other side of that is that maybe there is a little bit of an aspect of victimhood mentality that can sometimes really explain all of this, and sometimes that's not always the right answer, right? It gets complicated, but the thing is that if you lean one political direction over the other, it's going to be very difficult for you to try and analyze this in a very objective manner. So, for example, if you are one of these people like Deontay Wilder, who is a Black Lives Matter advocate, if you are one of these people who's also, like Deontay Wilder, that is very pro-black, that is proud to be black, you also have to understand that there's elements of that sort of stem from narcissism. Not only narcissism, but also a stem of traumatization, which sometimes traumatization can lead to narcissism. I want you to imagine this, right? Most kids from the hood that I know who are either black or Hispanic or this and that, but let's just say for this argument's sake, black, right? Because obviously that is more of the common, friends that I have in the hood more than, let's say, I would split it between, Asians, Samoans, and blacks, but I tend to understand the strife that they go through, right? Imagine growing up with parents that don't tell you they love you or, constantly downplay everything you do. Oh, you think you too good for the hood, huh? Oh, look at you trying to, make yourself better and this and that, right? Imagine growing up with all of that, right? Because I can tell you, I've grown up with white suburban kids, right? And I'm not ashamed to say that, just so I can hang out in the hood, right? By the end of the day, the hood and, street violence and gang violence is predicated on who is the most violent, who is the most violent animal of them all, right? But that's, neither here or there. The point of the matter is, being in that world, I'm now starting to kind of see and understand why people think that way. And it's like because of the fact that they are constantly being told that they're never going to be good enough, that they're never going to, do anything, or they're never, and then all of a sudden they rise above that, they become Deontay Wilder. So what happens? As a result of that, the psychological effect that you deal with that as a kid, it develops into narcissism. Now you start believing that you are, the black man is king. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, right, that I don't like about this whole king mentality is that, do you not understand that kings were the people that oppressed your people, right? Whether they were European kings that was involved in the slave trade or African kings that were heavily involved in the slave trade more than anybody else. But on any regard, let me see here. What did he say here? He says, that's why you're the perfect guy to analyze stuff. You always look at it objectively. Yes. And this is what I am trying to present into all of this, right? And also, you got to understand, right? It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Now, these are serious accusations that Deontay Wilder has towards Tyson Fury, saying that he cheated, saying that he melted his gloves, or he, melted his hand wraps and making it hard and this and that. Look, the Tyson Fury family, okay, his whole entire family are gypsies. These guys are outlaws. These guys will commit all types of buffoonery in order to achieve their goals, right? That is what gypsies do. They are, you know, they are people that come from a criminal background. Let's be honest about this, right? They are no different than, you know, people from the hood of the United States. The only difference is that the United States, instead of viewing Tyson Fury as somebody that comes from a lower class tier of white people, right? They just see him as a white British man, period, right? Not really understanding the context of his social reality. But on any regard, it is not far-fetched to believe that Tyson Fury would potentially commit some sort of, you know, cheating methods to get by. Okay, it is not that uncommon that he would do that. If you notice, you know, whenever Tyson Fury shadow boxes, right, he'll do this. And he's not doing this because he's trying to move his head. If he was just doing this to move his head, he would move it back, right? Kind of like what Floyd does, right? He moves his head back. He's not moving it back. He's going like this because if there's an opportunity to headbutt you, Tyson Fury will catch you with, you know, that big gypsy noggin of his. You know what I mean? So, and then Victory says, Simon was just calling him out of his BS excuses. Excuses he actually made. This has nothing to do with race. Well, here's the thing also. How do you know that he also is not playing WWE in this? Right? Because, you know what I mean? Like, now we're hooked in. Now this has become a headline title for my live stream. And everybody else is going to make a video about this as well. Yeah, man. Deontay Wilder got us talking about a fight with two 40-year-olds. Okay? Because, let's be honest. I know, Marty, I know you don't watch boxing, right, as often, right? I mean, obviously, you're more of an MMA guy, as I am as well. I tend to watch both. But for the MMA guys, are you interested now that Deontay Wilder, be honest, are you now curious, hey, how will this fight go? You know what? I'd like to see Derek Chisora knock this guy out. And here's the thing about Derek Chisora. He's the perfect opponent for Deontay Wilder, and I'm not talking about boxing stylistic-wise. I'm talking demographic and political socio-conscious-wise. You want to know why? You know who Derek Chisora is friends with, right? A very prominent British political figure in the right-wing movement known as Nigel Farage. Okay, so Nigel Farage is a big right-wing figure in the world of British politics, right? A lot of people deem him as racist, right? At least, you know, a lot of left-wing people, even normal centrist British people sort of, you know, label him as a racist in that regard, but not as pronounced as, let's say, Nick Fuentes, right? A little more of a polished, you know, British aristocratic version of Nick Fuentes, right? In fact, not even Nick Fuentes at all. Obviously, these British guys, you know, they're very classically trained, right? They know how to, you know, stand up straight, how to hold, and all the whole nine, right? He says, yeah, I mean, if he is playing a WWE card, it's a smart move. Right. So, once again, here's this pro-black American versus this British guy who, let's be honest, is loved by the white British public. Derek Chisora is the white British man's perfect black British man. You understand? He is that guy for them, right? Oh, he's one of the lads. He's one of the lads. Look, check this out, okay? Derek Chisora, what does he have in his do-rag? He's got a Union Jack, okay? He's got a Union Jack going on. This is a patriotic British man. Okay, he has white friends in Britain. And look, here's the thing. I've already explained to you guys the different racial dynamics in England, right? It is not that uncommon. Look, I'll give you an example, right? In 2005, I was in Egypt in the airport, right? I see a group of these British lads. Okay, they're British lads, right? One was white, Indian, and black. And I was like, hey, what part of the world are you guys from, right? Because, you know, usually if I was to see a group of people that are black, white, and Indian going on a trip together, I would think, okay, maybe these are American lads, right? Maybe they're American, right? Because, you know, we have such a diverse society in America that if I was to see a group of white lads with black lads and, and Indian lads all in one group, I'm going to automatically assume that these are Americans. Reason being is because we have a very diverse population. Well, lo and behold, they were British. Okay, and not only were they British, these were people that were, close-knit friends forever. And it's like, this is very common, right? Whereas in the high schools of the United States, I could tell you that growing up in New Jersey, when we were in middle school, in elementary to middle school, we were all playing together. And the next thing you know, high school came around and we got into the racial politics of East Coast, New Jersey way of thinking. You know what I mean? So, there was in Union High School, right, where I went to before I transferred to Old Bridge in my sophomore year. Union High School was a little bit more hood, right? It was a hood side of North Jersey. Well, anyways, the cafeteria had a black cafeteria and a white cafeteria. He says, did you have, of course, yes. He asked if I had many white friends. This is how, look, this is going to be very politically incorrect to say, but, it's kind of true demographically. You cannot be involved in wrestling unless you are around white people in America. In America, at least, right? We're not talking Russia or Dagestan or maybe even Cuba, but, obviously, which is a whole completely different racial demographics. But in the United States, if you've ever wrestled, you're going to be around white people. So, yes, that is, that's just the reality of it, right? But the thing is that, look, you look at how they kind of market wrestling, right? They put it on Fox Sports, for crying out loud, right? And it wasn't like the Fox Sports of the UFC. It's like the Fox Sports of Fox Nation, right? Literally the Fox News network that is hosting RAF. Why? Because a lot of these guys, they love their Second Amendment rights. They love their guns. They love Trump. They love Jesus. And all of that. So he says, not saying you are, but you have to admit most wrestlers are a little different. Yes, wrestlers are typically white and kind of weird. Exactly, right? I mean, look, man, just the etiquette that they have in the locker rooms, you know what I mean? It's like, there's bound to be one minority guy like, all right, listen, cut it out with all this, whipping with a towel and this and that while you're in the showers and all this other nonsense, you know what I mean? And a whole bunch of other weird stuff that they are liable to do as just being weird white guys in a shower hall, right? So there's that, right? So yes, that's, he says, yes, LOL, you know exactly what I mean. Yeah, exactly. It's white boy banter, you know what I mean? That, and then, you go to the hood, this is just not something that is, completely tolerated in any kind of way. But all right, let's continue on with this video with Simon Jordan and Deontay Wilder.
You call somebody a cheat. I asked you.
Oh, come on. You have a whole lot of black people around you.
Question. Stop, bro. The question. All right, moved on.
Stop it.
I moved on.
I want to pull it back in. Let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question about Fight Week. Deontay, let me just get into Derek about Fight Week. They're both known to be dynamic.
Did Derek just hand him a water? Oh, man, listen. First of all, you already accused Tyson Fury of drugging up your water bottle, right? Man, listen. Derek Chisora is the wrong guy to accept, a glass of water from. Look at this guy. What are you grinning about over there, Derek Chisora? What did you put in that thing, right? Probably something to like lower his testosterone so that, come fight week, in like a couple of months from now, he can, have like this weird advantage and he doesn't know why. Now he's feeling all woozy and okay, but let's get back to the video.
Invite week. We just see a little taster of that right now.
Come on, man. Y'all can't tell, man.
So the bronze bomber, there he is.
Yeah, so
come on, man.
Come on, we can have a disagreement.
As a little boy and your view as a little boy is totally different than my view as a little boy. Most black people, while we so into it with each other because we have PTSD, we done been through so much.
We wanted to move on, right? So
yeah, come on.
Look, also, I want to point out something about Deontay Wilder, right? Okay, Deontay Wilder is from Alabama. okay? I'm going to be honest, man. Listen, black folks in California are so much different than those of Alabama, and I think there's a good reason, or maybe a good, reasonable explanation as to why that is. The people in Alabama, okay, that is where slavery was very prominent. Okay, so you also have to understand they are racially divided. I had a homie who became a pastor, right? He moved down to Louisiana. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Louisiana, Alabama. So the same state as Deontay Wilder. He told me that they don't hang out with anybody who's not black. Okay, this is a black man. You know, my homie from Union, New Jersey, right? That's what he told me. They are racially separated, right? Like they're not like look, man, if you were to come to Cali and I was to introduce you to my friends, you know, in all the different sectors that I'm involved in, you know, it's not that uncommon, you know, you're going to see me with some white boys. It's not that uncommon. You're going to see me with some black dudes. It's not that uncommon. You're going to see me with some Samoans or some Arabs or this and that. I mean, you name it. International people, you know, I interact with them, you know, whether they're in Sacramento or out in, you know, in LA. These are all common occurrences of my life. This is not foreign to me. But there are people out there who have lived like that. And I want you to put that in perspective, right? That homie of mine who lives down in, you know, what do you call it, in Alabama, right? Listen, I'm gonna remove your comment, but I'm not gonna block you. All right, I'm just gonna warn you right now. Okay, don't say anything, you know, stupid and this and that. You know, I'm not gonna tolerate because you know, like, why do we need to know that you're a furry, and why do we need to know that you're doing a meow? Like, what is you know, the purpose of that, you know, other than just trying to create some kind of distraction? Because why? But in any regards, you because I can, well, that's exactly what it is, right? It's a sense of entitlement that you have going on because you think that you can just, because you just want to, right? Okay, well, that's fine, but this is what I want to do also. How about I put you out of here in the shadow realm? Okay, I want you to give me 2 reasons right now, before I put you out of the shadow realm, why I should not put you out of the shadow realm. If you don't answer that in the next 30 seconds, I'm putting you in the shadow realm and you're up out of here and you can't comment for a whole 24 hours. So give me one good reason why, or you're because I can. Other than that, that's not a reason, because I can. Look, we'll continue this, right? I'm going to give you 2 minutes on the clock to answer, okay? And then, okay, if that's your first answer, then give me a second answer, and I'm going to respond to you in a second if I decide to.
It's hard to move on when you don't know the truth, and that's when I come in and try to give you a vision, a little insight of what we go through as black people, man.
Look at this. Look at Deontay Wilder standing up right here. He's so fired up about this, right? And by the way, King of Bread, you are welcome to talk, my man. I just, yeah, okay, you're welcome to talk, you know, but just don't be surprised if I erase some comments. That's all.
Give you a vision, a little insight of what we go through as black people, man.
I got it.
You know, you don't get it.
Well, okay.
Did you see that? Derek Chisora just slid him. Look at this. He slid him, his cheeky little bastard. He slid him tissues.
What we go through as black people, man.
I got it.
You know, you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get it. Derek Chisora just handed you, what do you call it? I can't believe it, man. He handed him, you know, tissues. That's crazy.
Well, okay.
None of y'all get it.
Where do you want me to go?
Y'all don't get it. And that's the problem. You think you get what you don't understand.
Okay.
Why is it so hard?
Put it back into the fight. Let's talk about the
It's
fight.
hard to put it back. I'm from the South. You understand?
Come on, let's put it back into the fight.
It's hard.
You see, he just said it right there. He says, I'm from the South. You understand me? That's literally the sentiment that I was telling you about, right? You know, they're just different. Look, the black folks that I know in California, they think about how diverse their culture is in comparison to, let's say, black folks in Alabama, right? You know, they only have people who look like them in their community, whereas if, let's say, you're a black man in California, you're around Mexicans, right? Especially if you're part of the lowrider culture, even if you're part of, let's say, the racing culture, right? So let's say you're a black man that has you know, a souped up Honda or whatever, right? And you race on the weekends, like one of them Fast and Furious, you know, type of situations, right? You have Asian friends, right? You're a black man that has Asian friends. You also got a low rider at home. Guess what? You got Mexican friends. You got white friends as well, because maybe you're into bikes, right? Maybe you're into motorbikes, right? Okay, you know, let's say if you're, you know, a black man that grew up in California and you grew up wrestling here, right? You're going to have plenty of white friends because, as I told you guys, you know, the majority of people that are participants in American wrestling are white Americans. He says, what if an African immigrant who moved to the U.S. for work but educated in a top UK university? Okay, that's very interesting. Are you asking if you are able to obtain a fairly decent job or a fairly, you know, rightful position if you were to move to the United States with these types of statuses? I would say yes. I would think that the United States would somehow recognize the education of, you know, of the UK, right? Especially if it is, yeah. So a decent job, basically. Okay, so I believe you are trying to come to the United States. I wish well on your journey, and I hope that your journey you know, allows you to find prosperity and all of Allah's blessings here in the United States or anywhere else in the world. He says, hey, I'm sorry for what I was saying. I was a furry. Yeah, no problem, man. He says, my bad. No, listen, you know what? Here's my policy on the entire live chat, right? You're allowed to say what you want to say as long as it is not impeding on, let's say, the rules and guidelines of YouTube, because that could also get me in trouble as well. So I have to play by those rules. But other than that, you can say what you want. We can have an interesting discussion and have, you know, a fairly decent engagement and discourse, of course. Mohammed Dahir says, like, I'm British, African heritage with a degree in pharmacy and education. Okay, so pharmacy could be a little bit more complicated, my man, okay? And the reason why I say that is because maybe perhaps there is a different type of drugs or prescriptions that we have in the United States, and as such, maybe you need to have a certain type of training to specialize in understanding you know, those differences of medicine. So that's something that I think you would have to look out for. But I think that you having that experience in Great Britain, I think would help if, let's say, you needed to have some kind of re-education in the United States, and that's the best answer that I can give you on that particular topic. He says, I know that with pharmacy, I'll have to conversion course. Okay, yes. So that's, you are, that is the exact language that I am speaking on that particular you know, topic. So let me know what part of the UK you are from, my brother. And by the way, you are very welcome here. I hope that you stay in the chats, continue to engage from here on, and also like and subscribe, because we have a very beautiful community here of people not only from London but across the United States. I got my moderator Marty, who's from Ohio, right? Also trains MMA, trains with a very prominent team out there. So, yeah, man, you know, we have, you know, some very interesting people that join us here, and I hope that you also become one of those as well. All right, so genuinely worried about the safety, by the way. Okay, you know what? We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, after we play this video, I'm going to talk to you about the safety in the United States, the truth, and the falsehoods and the exaggeration behind it. Stay tuned.
All right, when y'all don't understand, I get another situation. I said I didn't want to talk about this situation. Now you got me riled up.
Fair enough.
Riled as back. You understand? I feel. You understand me?
Got it.
You don't mean that, man.
Okay, stop
Let me get the out of here, bro. I'm out of here. Talking about my peoples and all that. It's hard to believe a black man and a white man. cheated. Tell him to sue me so I can show the facts early. Because when
He said, tell him to sue me so that I could present the facts. So I think Deontay Wilder is trying to provoke Tyson Fury to sue him so that he can present his case. And once again, I told you guys, this is why I say it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So let us find out what it is that Deontay Wilder can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyson Fury cheated. That is, if Tyson Fury decides to take up that lawsuit. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just worried about his fight that he has going on with the Chechenian in April 11th. He says, this might be a little WWE action. I think you're right. Simon Jordan is an absolute tool. Yeah, he is, man. You know, and he's a provocateur. Yeah, and Simon Jordan is a pure provocateur for sure.
come out, I'm gonna show everything. I'm gonna get all the people that know, and all the people that's in the inside. He got people that the inside of him that know. I don't what? I don't about that.
I'm not a Fury.
I don't but I said we didn't want to bring him up in the first place. It ain't got to do with him.
Fair enough.
The you talking about?
Look, I gotta be honest with you, right? I tend to side with the fighters whenever they are asked a question about a specific fighter in their fight week or in their fight campaign of promotions leading up to it, such as like world tours or press conferences, right? I tend to take their side whenever they say that I don't want to talk about another man that has nothing to do with this fight, that's not in the headlines, that's not in this event, that is not my next upcoming competition. I sympathize with the fighters on that, right? Because I fought myself, right? And when you are preparing for a fight, your mind is only in, towards one guy that you have your mind towards, right? And you don't want to deviate from that, especially if you are heavily focused. Now, here's the thing, though. I also think that Deontay Wilder was heavily wounded in his ego from the Tyson Fury fight. And as a result of that, I believe that it becomes a very sensitive subject for him. You see this a lot with people who have been victimized by other people, right? I've seen this, in the streets, right? Where if you mention a guy's name that violated another guy, they probably will look at you sideways like, why are you bringing him up for? Right? That's sort of where Deontay Wilder is at with this. But yeah, understand that is the reality of the Deontay Wilder situation, right? It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And I'm not willing to dismiss his own version of the truth yet. He just has to go and present it to everyone else. Now, as far as Simon Jordan goes, you have to understand it is his job as a journalist and as a TV host to try and pry these questions out, because it is a hot topic that deals with the career of Deontay Wilder. You are accusing another man of cheating in the world of modern professional boxing, right? Where there are a lot of rules and regulations and a lot of authoritative oversight, that you are accusing a man of all of these things. So we want to know what's the haps on that, right? But at the same time, it is his responsibility and it is a strategy. But not only that, you also have to understand there are aspects of fight game banter that goes into this as a result of creating a promotional and marketable fight to which you have two 40-year-olds that are in their twilight years of their fighting career. And as a result, you got to get out there and sell it in some kind of way. Right? You can't lose a touch of that. So, okay. Last topic before, obviously not a last topic, but it's been an ongoing topic that I've been talking about here, is Dana White actually the real boss of the UFC, right? And here's the answer to that, right? Have you guys ever worked with somebody that made you do all the work, right? Whether it was a school project or it was in the actual confines of your workplace, right? That is what is going on with Dana White right now in terms of Hunter Campbell. Hunter Campbell is doing all the legwork. But it doesn't mean that Dana White is not doing scouting work, right? Or at least he does scouting work through his Dana White's Contender Series fights, and also when he does Looking for a Fight series that he does with Matt Serra in this YouTube series that he does where he goes and looks for the next upcoming talent, right? a couple of prominent people that were featured in that in the past, obviously, was Mickey Gall was made to become an opponent of CM Punk, right? That was his whole entire purpose, was to, you know, get him to become that, right? Become that opponent for CM Punk. All right? And then you have Sage Northcutt, right? So he does recruiting, right? But not recently. Right now, that is what it seems like. It seems like Dana White has basically given all the load of work towards Hunter Campbell, and there's a good reason for that, right? Because Dana White has other projects that are going on right now, so he can't necessarily see the daily operations the way that he once did. But once again, it is Hunter Campbell that is the man behind the scenes, and that's just the way that it is. It's a workload that Dana White has going on that he has to get off his, you know, his chest, and that's really what it is by the end of the day. So, all right, guys, listen, that is all the time that I have for this one. Just wanted to get in here, you know, a little bit under an hour, so hopefully this can get more views later on, so it's more watchable for people. But that is all that I have for this one. Check out my latest video that I have with Conor McGregor's contract situation and things of that nature. So also, we're going to be doing more live streams and more coverage of everything MMA related, boxing related, politics related, and everything in between. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, inshallah.